The cleanup is on after the massive amounts of rain that fell in parts of our area this week. We were just talking about it, right?
Yeah, one woman died as rain inundated parts of Orange, Rockland, and Westchester and Putnam counties, more than 8 inches in some places.
So what should flood victims do now, and how can you protect yourself if you're ever affected by a natural disaster?
For that, we turn to Brian Evans. He is CEO of Eastern Public Insurance Claims and Risk Management right here in New York. So good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So your group, you're public adjusters, right, who represent claimants against insurance companies, right?
Yeah. So what happens, most consumers aren't that familiar, but there's different types of adjusters in the claims process. There are what's referred to as independent or company adjusters. They represent only the insurance company. Public adjusters represent only policyholders, and that's our role.
Okay, I see. So there are so many people, though, dealing with huge losses. So what should they be doing right now to expedite their claims?
Well, immediately after any type of damage, you've got a few things that you want to keep in mind. Primarily, you've got safety, which is your primary issue, which is you want to make sure that your family, your pets, and whatever is in your home that might be of particular value are removed to safety when this type of event occurs. Beyond that, you've got an obligation in your insurance policy to mitigate the damages to your property. And that can take several different forms depending on the type of damage and the severity of what you're dealing with. But moving quickly to start to mitigate that damage is critical in the claims process. So generally what you want to do is after the loss occurs and you've removed yourself to safety is immediately notify your insurance carrier, put them on notice, and then move into some type of mitigation, which is cleanup or removal of the damaged property and drying out of the structure in this event from a flood or water damage.
Yeah, so help us understand, because we've covered these storms over the years, and a lot of folks have always battled with their insurance companies to get the certain refunds back for things like you're talking about, not just getting things repaired, but mitigation as well, and getting mold removal and so forth. So what happens if your insurance company is giving you a difficult time?
This is something we know too well in the industry as policyholder advocates. This is specifically what we deal with. So if you run into a situation where you filed your claim, it starts to move forward, but you're not comfortable with the way that it's progressing, you're not getting information quickly enough, or you just don't feel good about it, or maybe you're not familiar with the process and just would like a helping hand with that process. That's specifically what a public adjuster does and what they're here for. So, a lot of times what you'll have is people who feel or are under the impression that their only recourse in these situations when they're not getting attention from their insurance carrier or the service that they expect is litigation, that they may have to sue their carrier. They may even threaten to sue. But understanding that there's this specific role that's licensed by the state to represent policyholders, to help them through this process, to provide them with all the resources that they need, and also to overcome disputes when they arise is specifically what public adjusters are intended to do and what our role is in the process.
Wow, that's so much to deal with, especially after dealing with the trauma of the events in itself. So there might be confusion, though, for homeowners and renters. Do they have different responsibilities then when it comes to protecting themselves?
It depends. So in New York especially, we're located in Manhattan. We work across the East Coast. But if we're working in upstate in Albany or in the Hudson Valley, it might be different than if we're working in lower Manhattan or Midtown. So, the answer to your question is it is different. In a situation where you're a renter, for example, you have different responsibilities to the loss. You don't own typically the structure. So if there's damage to the building, to the walls, to the floors, that's not necessarily something you're going to be overly concerned with. But you do typically maintain insurance for your personal property, your rental property.
Yes.
So that could be your own personal belongings within the unit. It could also mean your loss of use if you get displaced from the space because of it. And in other situations, multi-unit buildings, condo co-op, commercial spaces, there's usually a shared responsibility between the landlord or owners of the building.
Okay.
The condo co-op association, and then the individual unit owners. And the separation of those responsibilities is dictated by the governing documents of the building.
Okay.
So it is a little bit of homework that goes into the process to figure out who and what is responsible.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to filing a claim for a second, because I feel like this is what people bang their head against the wall when they try to do this. So I have X insurance company, right? I filed my claim. I need to move quickly because I have mold in my house or my apartment, and I'm getting denied or it's not moving quick enough. That's when they then call you?
Generally, no. What we would recommend is that if there's a severe loss, if it's if I'm displaced from my home or business, you should consider that a severe loss. And in those situations, it's going to be beneficial to bring in a public adjuster as early as possible into the process. And the reason there is because they're going to bring in resources and expertise that are going to help guide you early on in the event to avoid any types of disputes later on, right? You don't want to get into a fight with the insurance company. You want to put yourself in a position so things move smoothly, that you're communicating with them in a way that's effective, that you're giving them the information efficiently, and that you're moving through that negotiation in a way that's very pragmatic and follows certain protocols. So the PA is going to understand that process, going to understand how to get from point A to point Z, and getting involved earlier in the process is going to make that as efficient as possible for everybody. Now, if you don't, it's not too late to bring in the PA. The PA can come in after the fact and piece it together and then fight those disputes for you, like I said, as opposed to an attorney. And generally, that's going to be more advantageous to the policyholder in those situations.
Okay.
But yes, as early as possible.
All right. Brian Evans, thank you so much for that advice. It's going to be very helpful for the folks dealing with so much damage after the storms. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Great to be with you.